And we're recording. Hello.
Hello. Hi.
My face is for the thumbnail. Don't mind me. Just trying to make my life easier.
I don't know why, but when you do this, I just think, aren't I a stinker?
Oh, stinker. I feel like this is like the thing that like those white girls do, that when they do something very mundane, they're like, oh my God, I'm such a crackhead. I'm just such a crackhead. They also do that, you know.
I hate that phrase so much. Race politics. Anyway, hi, my name is Sam.
And I am Mason.
And you know it's good when you hear, right on company.
That was the most on the spot we've been, so good for
I
us.
hope so.
I'm sure of it. I'm sure of it. Even though we're talking about an anime today, and we haven't had a Raikon Topini in quite some time.
Yes. It's been a minute.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's the tagline for the show, so you're just gonna have to understand it and live with it. Otherwise, fuck you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. So I'm going to be completely candid because Mason already knows this. We spoke about it already. We're doing Given, and because Given is in a different medium than we normally do, I don't feel as well prepared in speaking about this show as I have others. So I'm going to let Mason really take the lead on this one quite a bit. I'll still be chiming in here and there, but if I'm more quiet, it's not because I don't like the show. It's because this really just isn't my wheelhouse of conversation, because I don't do a lot of anime. So just wanted to put that out there before we go on. I don't want y'all to think that like I'm biting my tongue because I have bad things to say. If I had bad things to say, I will say them.
I do think it would be good to like, you know, still share, like, if you feel like you have something to say, to like truly just say it, just because like I think that would open up interesting dialogue as someone who maybe doesn't know as much about animation, how to like critique it fully, and then me who like my 9 to 5 is in animation, so like that's my job. So I think that'd be an interesting discussion to have as well. But yeah, when Sam texted me last night, she was like, so I just finished Given, ... I'm gonna let you take the lead on this one. And I was like, okay. And I didn't have notes, but I do have the manga. So if you see me like looking down, it's because I'm like being like, yes, this scene, and like double checking things. Because the manga and the anime are like really similar. There's barely any difference. So I have that for reference. Well, would you like?
I can do a plot synopsis if you want. At least
I was about to say, would you please do the honor of doing the plot synopsis?
Thank you. So we have two boys that meet at high school, I'm assuming.
Mm-hmm.
One of them usually takes a nap in the stairwell. Well, one day when he goes to take a nap, there's another boy sitting in the stairwell with a guitar, and the guitar has broken strings. So the guy who was going to take a nap was like, hey, I can fix those strings for you. And all of a sudden, he becomes kind of latched onto by the other boy. Now, the other boy's name is Sato. I think I got that right. I hope I got it right.
Yep, Mafiu Sato. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And the boy who changed out the strings is Annoying? Is that what you said?
Uenoyama or Ritsuka.
See, this is the reason why I was scared about doing the plot, because the names, y'all.
Just
anyway,
summer and winter, because their names have winter. Mafiu's name has winter in his name, and then Uenoyama's name has Ritsuka has summer in it.
So we're gonna go summer and winter. Yeah. So Summer was who was gonna try to take a nap. Winter is the one who had the guitar with the broken strings. So Winter changes out the strings. Summer's like, can you please teach? Or Summer changed out the strings, and Winter's like, can you please teach me how to play guitar? And it's really difficult for Summer because he had already kind of lost his passion for playing guitar at this point, so he really wasn't interested in trying to teach anybody. But there's just something about Winter that makes him decide, I'll go ahead and give it a shot. Probably the persistence. But anyway, Summer's a part of a band. The band is called The Seasons. And one day, after hearing Winter la 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 his way through a song that stuck in his head, he's like, you need to join our band as a vocalist. But there's some psychological background issues that kind of are preventing Winter from fully being able to kind of be a part of the band, but also just dealing with life in general. And so that to me seemed like that was the main thrust of the show, was like everyone kind of dealing with these unspoken things, and it kind of preventing them from being able to maybe devote their all to this music project. So that's the plot to me. I could have read it wrong, but that's what it felt like to me when I was watching.
That's the plot. There's no wrong answers here. When it comes to like critiquing media, like as long as you have contextual evidence to back up your claim, like I guess there's really no wrong answers, you know?
I mean, there are some wrong answers, like people who think that End of Love is good, but I'm just saying.
Oh man, there were some tweets today being like, I really wish End of Love gets a season 2 or a full series. And I was like, you have got to be kidding me. What about End of Love is good to you? Explain. Explain yourself, sir.
This is the reason why thirsty fangirls should not be allowed to critique media, because they lead hormones first.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so Mason, lay it on me. Give me the critique.
Well, so I feel like what we should do is kind of, so first of all, we are a fully spoiler channel if you're just tuning in. So if you haven't seen the show and you don't want to be spoiled, maybe click out, because we are going to go totally through it to the end. But maybe we can talk about the show as a whole, like the plot, the characters, like stuff that we can really talk about. And then at the end, I'll kind of go into maybe some more technicals of the animation and like why personally Given was a show I really wanted to watch with Sam, and why I have a lot of like, I just have like a lot of connection to Given that I feel I want to explain to Sam and like I guess to viewers, but really because I made Sam watch this, so I owe her the explanation as to why I like it so much.
Ooh, it's the Best Friends Club! Woo!
What's the Best Friends Club?
Well, I feel like that's what it is. You're about to lay some untold truths on me, and the rest of us are sharing. So this is Best Friends Club. All right.
Maybe. But all right, so let's get into the plot and the characters. Overall, honestly, Given is a really slow start. It takes a minute for this thing to ever pick up, and it barely ever picks up, if I'm being honest. Do you agree?
Much like Where Your Eyes Linger.
Yes, I feel like our opinions on Where Your Eyes Linger, a lot of the same things apply. It doesn't pick up very much. I will say, I think this show is better in the way that I feel like this show does a really good job of showing how these two fell for each other. Like, I totally buy into how Summer and Winter fall in love. Like, I get it. I think, like, a lot of shows, I'm always like, what do these two people talk about? What's their conversation off screen? You know, why are they a couple? Whereas I feel like I understand how they sort of slowly fell for each other. And you definitely get more of Ritsuka's perspective as he's falling in love with Mafuyu. And how he like had never considered ever dating a guy. He had never dated before. He was just, he kind of starts as like, he seems like he'd be like the grumpy Sasuke type that's like cold and doesn't talk to people, but he's actually a very like charming and very like actually funny teenage kid. Like both these characters, they just feel like dumb teenage boys, and I love it, honestly. Like it's just, I just think it's like really subtle writing that really builds these characters to being realistic, believable, and like I believe that they started off not knowing each other, and then by episode 11, you know, they're dating. Like I buy the progression. It makes sense. Like I get it. So I think that's a bonus. The character progression was nice. Albeit slow, it was nice.
I have to say, yes and no. I kind of agree with you and I kind of don't. You are absolutely right when you're saying that on the part of Summer, on the part of Summer, I definitely saw his slow transition into love. Like first not understanding, why do I feel compelled to be around Winter all the time? Why do I find myself agreeing to things that if I was in my right mind and anybody else was asking, I wouldn't agree to? But it actually felt really strange to see Winter declare that he was in love with Summer. because the first time he acknowledges his love for Summer is right after they kiss,
Mm-hmm.
after their stage performance.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if it's just because Winter is so deep in his stunted grief process throughout the show leading up to that point that it just never comes up. But in a lot of ways, I felt like the affection he had for Summer was like a big brother, little brother affection. Like, you're doing something for me that's so cool. I admire you because you're so cool. I didn't pick up romance vibes. And I mean, I'm glad that after they kissed, he said, "Oh, I realize I'm in love with him," because otherwise the kiss would be very awkward.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it felt very sudden for me when Winter found out or declared his love, because up to that point, there didn't seem to be any clues in the dialogue or in the story that this was a reciprocal feeling, which is another reason why I felt a lot of sympathy for Summer, because he's with this guy who obviously they're friends, but knowing you're in love with him and not knowing if it's mutual, do you want to have that conversation with somebody if you think you might be rejected or it might ruin things? And I think that's another reason why the scene at the ocean was so hilarious, because finally the lights go on. It's like, oh my God, it's mutual!
That scene was so good. Oh, that's actually one of the best scenes. There's a scene where they go to the ocean, which is a very special place to Mafiu, because that's where, like, he had a very special memory with his past lover. Very quickly, first of all, trigger warning for suicide. Just note. But Mafiu, the reason he is so in his feelings and he has such a hard time expressing himself currently is because he lost his former boyfriend to suicide. And his boyfriend was also his childhood best friend. He was in a, group of 4 with him and these 2 other boys, and he started dating Yuki when he was in high school or middle school. And then when they got to high school, they kind of drifted apart a bit. I think they went to different high schools. And one day Yuki committed suicide. It was, they didn't expect it. There were no signs that he was depressed. I will say one of the things of the show is like they didn't explain that very well. And I wish they had kind of touched on that a bit more as to what totally transpired and why because the reason they give in the show is like, oh, they had a stupid squabble. It wasn't anything super major, but they had a fight. And then Yuki went home, got super drunk and killed himself. And it was like, what? Like, that doesn't make too much sense. So I wish that was explained more. But yes, Mafiu runs to the ocean with Uenoyama, and I really like this about Mafiu, who's a character that hasn't been very open about his feelings a lot of the time and is very quiet a lot of the time. He flat out says, I like you. I really like you. Like, I love you. More than a friend. Like, he flat out comes out and says it. Mad respect to my boy, Winter, for doing that. And then Summer is, like, shocked, gagged, gooped. He can't believe it. The world is full of rainbows and sparkles, and they have this really cute scene where it's like the inner dialogue inside his mind, but it's like different personality traits. Like, if they're basically throwing a goodbye party for his virgin self. And then it's like confident me, shy me, questionable me, and like different like personality traits, like battling it out of what to say next. Which is just such a cute scene. It's so good.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't have a problem with them after This Love Is Mutual. In fact, I thought it was really cute how they went to all the band members, asked for permission to date. That was funny.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it did take me by surprise, because I didn't see it coming, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Like, with the way their relationship was portrayed previously, just totally didn't see it coming.
Yeah, I can believe that. I do think that it would have been nice to show a little bit more of Mafiu, like, romantically interested in Uenoyama. Because I feel like if you know now that they totally get together and that he liked him the whole time, I feel like you might watch some scenes differently. But I can see how a lot of these scenes, especially the first time watching it, you'd be like, oh, it's a big brother, little brother relationship. So totally get that. Totally get that. That's definitely something that could have been improved upon. But
you know whose relationship I really, really liked, and it had nothing to do with romance. I liked the relationship between Winter and Haruki. Is that Haruki?
Haruki's the one with the long hair.
Yes. I liked their relationship.
Yeah.
I thought their relationship was really good because I felt in a lot of ways they were kind of in similar positions, if it makes any sense. Like, Winter definitely seemed like a person who is a more observant person, not as vocal. And Haruki, he definitely feels like he has a lot going on in the background, but he second guesses himself all the time. So he doesn't really act on maybe what his impulses would be. And so that kind of carefulness in life they both have. And so the scenes where they would be talking to each other, that was a relationship that I was like, I hope these two become the best of friends later on in life. Like, I could really see them being the very best of friends for a really long time.
I really like how the other band members played into their love story. I really like Akihiko for how he talked to both Mafuyu and Uenoyama about their relationship. Like, I love that scene where Akihiko and Uenoyama are like on a break from band practice, and they're like going to drink coffee, and they're outside. And Akihiko looks to Summer, and he's like, "You like Mafuyu, don't you?" And Uenoyama's a dumb teenage boy. He can't hide what's on his face, and he doesn't know how to respond to that because, you know, how do you respond to that? Like, kind of figuring out that you like someone of the same sex is like a really weird situation, especially in like Japan, where this is not like a super acceptable thing. It's like, yeah, how's he gonna respond to this? And then Akihiko's like very like mature and big brotherly. It's like, hey, it's okay. You're not weird. I fucked with guys too. You know, it's whatever. And it's like, I just love that he had this like little big bro moment. And he was like, it's okay. Your feelings are valid. You are valid if you're gay. Doesn't matter. Because, you know, I'm bi, and that's great. So I was like, yeah, that's nice.
Speaking of, oh gosh, these names, Akihiko?
Yeah.
I'm calling him Aki because I can't. Anyway,
that's good. I'm not even pronouncing them well.
I have so many questions about the relationship between Aki and his roommate, the violin prodigy.
Yeah, so that is something that is going to be explored in the movie that was supposed to come out in May, but has been delayed because of the world situation. I don't want to say the name because then YouTube won't recommend our videos to people, I found out. So I want people to watch this. Yes.
That's gonna make it really tough to talk about Game Boys, but all right.
It's like a buzzword for them. We already
like that's literally another character in Game Boys, so that it's gonna be very hard. But we'll keep going.
So that is, if you're interested in that, when the movie comes out, we'll have to watch it because that is totally addressed his relationship with the violinist Ugetsu, I think his name is, and his feelings for Haruki. Those are explored in the movie. They're the B couple, so they get their kind of like own movie.
They're the main couple of the movie?
Yeah. No?
I don't like that guy. I don't like the violinist. Something about his personality completely sets
No. The main couple is Haruki and Aki.
Oh, okay. I was like...
But they do talk about, but you have to talk about the relationship with the violinist, who, yes, is shit. He gets bad vibes. I don't like him. He's slimy.
I don't know what it is about him. Like, okay, have you ever gotten the feeling that, like, somebody is not necessarily a serial killer, but they're the kind of person who doesn't value the humanity in people, that people really are a function of what they can provide for them?
Yes.
That's the way he comes off. Like, he seems like the kind of person that will look at somebody and immediately makes a judgment call on whether or not you're valuable based on your talents, your skills, what you bring to the table rather than who you are. And that's the reason why I hate him. like the whole time that when he went to the concert, actually even before he went to the concert, was like, well, I'm not going to go if you're going to suck. It's like, thank you for being a friend. But then after he goes to the concert and he sees Winter singing and he's like, oh, another naturally talented person. He just needs the right trigger. I'm like, don't touch him. Leave him alone.
Yeah.
So I don't like the violin player at all. And they even drew his face slimy. I don't like him. I don't. Hate that guy.
But they're essentially in like a very toxic relationship. So the movie's kind of about getting out of that.
Yeah, because he's a fucking toxic ass person.
Yeah.
He's the fucking worst. And it's weird because he hasn't necessarily done anything. But okay. Side note, when I watch shows, if it's not already evident, I create entire universes about these shows in the background in my head. Mm-hmm. So I imagine backstories that don't actually exist. Mm-hmm. And in the backstory that I'm imagining that doesn't exist, I feel like he's constantly like playing games with Aki's mind. And like, they're still fucking. In my mind, they're still fucking. That's why there's only one bed in the room, because they're still fucking. But in my mind, the backstory is like, they fucked around, but violin guy was like, you know, I am not the kind to be in a relationship with anybody, but you're my favorite of the people I do fuck around with. And he keeps him in the basement apartment, whatever, because he's like, he has value to me. I'm not done playing with him just yet. But he doesn't actually love him in any way, shape, or form. But he appreciates the loyalty. He appreciates the willingness to do things. And he finds him interesting. But he doesn't have the emotional capacity to actually love someone. And unfortunately for Aki, that's all he has. That's what keeps him in this terrible situation, is that this was his first love, and he's never had the ability to close the door on this first love because they're still constantly together all the time. And I think in a lot of ways, the saying, you know, if you're going to suck at the concert, I'm not going to go. He throws his greatness in Aki's face all the time to let him know that I'm allowed to play with you because I'm better than you. And so I deserve to be allowed to play with you. You live in my house. I'm the one who wins competitions. I'm the one who everybody agrees is the talented person. You're actually quite lucky to be in my presence. So you don't have a reason or a voice to argue with the way I treat you, because I am the alpha here. And that's why, like, in my mind, I just hate this fucking guy.
You are so close to how it actually is. You're not.
I mean, I never...
there are some key things that are different, but like 70% of that is like, that's it. So you're really close. So I'm excited for you to see the movie now, fucking next year, because it takes forever to get anime movies in America, unless they're like a popular one, like, you know, something from Ghibli, but smaller budget movies tend to not come to America very quickly. But you got it, so that's good.
Well, I mean, that's the fact that they share a bed, but he comes in and talks about the guy he's currently fucking, that's a weird dynamic. Some people can do the poly thing and they're fine with that, but I live with you, I cook your meals, or at least I cook my own meals and you eat my meals, I make you coffee, I basically am like your live-in dude, and we share a bed. We're probably fucking. Like, yeah. So like, there's a lot of the trappings of a romantic relationship without the romance, or at least without the emotional aspect of romance. And I hate it. I hate it for him. Aki deserves better.
Yeah.
Fuck that guy. Yeah. I hate him so much. He's the fucking villain. Him and the guy with the blonde tips, I hate them both.
Oh, Winter's friend?
Yes.
Why do you hate him?
Okay, so I hate Winter's friend because he has the nerve to show up asking for forgiveness. Now, this may have been something that was on his mind for quite a while, that he wanted to ask for forgiveness, that he felt a sense of guilt for allowing situations to go on without ever giving any input or giving any counsel or just acknowledging that these situations existed. I get that. But how long did he wait between the death of Yuki and finally having a real conversation with Winter, what was that gap? Why wouldn't you have followed up immediately after Yuki's death? Because when we first meet the friend, it's because he's randomly walking down the street and sees Winter with this guitar, like that Yuki's guitar. Mm-hmm. Then the next time they see each other, it's not trying to have this conversation. It's like, I showed up at your job, asked you what you were doing, and then proceeds to laugh about the fact that he joined a band with their other childhood friend, mm-hmm. but then finally shows up like, I need forgiveness. Now, if you've had this burden on your heart for a while, it seems to me like the first opportunity I had to have a real conversation with you, it would start with, I'm sorry it took me so long to have this conversation with you, but I'm here now. Let's talk. But that's not what happens. He waits a really long time to do that. And even then, the whole conversation is how I feel. I need forgiveness. I want forgiveness. And you just seem like a shit friend. I don't like him.
I kind of see what you're saying, but I see him a bit more as like a tortured soul, because isn't some of this also on Winter for never reaching out either? I mean, they both lost someone extremely close to them. I think
Sam, who had more. But Winter found the body. And if I found the body, I think that that's a scar that would take even longer for me to get over. I've never found a dead body, but I imagine finding my lover / best friend's dead body, I would be practically comatose after that.
Yeah, but I feel like the friend whose name I forgot, I don't want to dig through the books because it'll take
Blonde Tips. I'm going to call him Blonde Tips because that's how I remember him.
I don't know. I just think that, but I've also read the manga, so like we're getting more info on him now. I view him as a bit more of a tortured soul. I view him as someone who is really bad at feelings, expressing feelings, accepting feelings. It seems like someone that just wants things to be like simple and happy and, doesn't want to deal with anything complicated and runs away from it, which is not good. But like, if that's his personality, that's something that he has to get over. And I think that he and Winter have like this weird brother dynamic where it's like, if anyone were to touch Winter, he'd be beating their ass. Absolutely. He'd be on top of it. But he's also like kind of a dick to him, like an older brother would be. Like he's teasing him when he really shouldn't, because I feel like he's just uncomfortable. He doesn't know what to do. He doesn't know what to say because he's also hurting. And his way of, coping with it isn't good.
Well, he's also stuck in this really weird relationship with the other guy in their friendship group. So there's the 4 friends. It was Winter, Yuki, Blonde Tips, and Stone Cold is what I'm going to call him because he has no personality in the anime. Mm-hmm. And I feel like Blonde Tips and Stone Cold have something going on between them that's not verbalized or really seen clearly. Mm-hmm. But obviously, once the, how do I put this? Once the suicide happened, obviously Blonde Tips and Stone Cold became super close with each other. Part of it is because they were already in a band with each other, but it's like they were the other couple in this foursome and they just decided to kind of go off together. And also they went to the same school together. Like Winter's the only one that went to a different high school. Uh-huh. And so I don't know if maybe the reason why it took Blonde Tips so long to reach out to Winter is because he had somebody helping him get through the grieving process. But again, Winter didn't. And maybe Blonde Tips got to a point in his grieving process where he felt comfortable enough to approach Winter, because it could have been that whole situation was so scary to him. And the idea of Winter, somebody losing so much, was so scary for him to approach that he just couldn't for a really long time. But he had somebody to back him up and somebody to be his friend and somebody to get him through it. And in that way, I feel even sorrier for Winter because he got abandoned by not just one person, but 3 people. He practically lost his entire universe in one night. Mm-hmm. And so I understand that Blonde Tips is human. Like, I understand his humanity very well, but I still dislike him because at some point I wish that he would have been able to get outside of himself and see that, yes, it is very scary to approach somebody who's lost so very much, but you're contributing to them losing even more.
That's fair. I do think we have to take in consideration that they're like 15 and 16, you know? So like, how do you deal with that trauma at such a young age?
That
But
is true.
I do think the fact that this show is going into such heavy layers of context and emotion for these characters, and I don't feel like it's overdone or hammy. I feel like it's very subtly there. I just think that's such a good bonus for the show. I think
I
that's
will say
really
that's
cool.
true. I'm not trying to cut you off, but one thing that is the reason why I wanted to let you know I didn't dislike this show, because much like reality, grief is messy and it doesn't wrap itself up in a bow and it's not easily rectified. And in this show, these emotions are not easily rectified.
Mm-hmm.
That's all. So I do like the show. It just, the part that you're going to talk about, the super technical part later on, I'm going to have nothing to do with that. But
Yeah.
I do like this show for grief being what it is. It's a constant process. It's always changing. It recedes and then it moves forward, and it plays in the background, and then sometimes it's in sharp relief. You know, as a person who's lost people in their life, it never is closed. The door is never closed. Sometimes it's a little bit more open than other times, but it's never completely closed. And that is one thing the show is very good at showing, is it's messy. It's really messy. And there are parts of grief that no matter who you're talking to or how often you're talking to them, they can't help you. You have to go through some of those moments alone.
Mm-hmm.
Also, Winter needs to be adopted into a loving home, him and his cat dog,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm mad at his mother. I'm not mad at his mother because I think she's a bad person. I think she's a person who doesn't have any help. But like they established that early on in his life, his father used to beat him.
Mm-hmm.
And then they established that he is raised with a single mom. Every time we go to Winter's apartment, his mother is gone. His mother's very rarely ever home. We've never seen her. And I wonder what she did for her son after he lost his best friend. Even if she didn't know they were in a relationship, they were next door neighbors. They spent their childhoods together. As a parent with a child who's already gone through the trauma of child abuse, I would have been very concerned for my son losing his very best friend. And it just seems to me like she was not a presence at all.
I don't know. I never considered that, only because like anime surrounding teenagers almost never deals with the parents. They're rarely, it's like a Disney movie. They're just not in it most of the time, you know? They're like an amorphous, they're there.
We just pay the bills and keep the lights on, huh? That's all we
Yeah.
are?
So I guess I think that's a really good point, but I had never thought of that because I'm just so used to anime about teenagers, just like, no one talks about their parents. It's just not a thing, you know? Or the parents will have like a couple lines in the series, you know?
I would have never thought about his mother if it wasn't for you saying that the mom walks the dog.
Well, because you kept asking like, oh my God, that question bothered me so much because you're like, who's walking the dog? And I'm like, this isn't a question you need answered. No. The show is not about who's walking I don't need a scene where someone's walking the dog. It's not productive in any way. It doesn't tell me any information that I need to know.
All I'm saying is this: the dog would have loved to have gone to the ocean.
Yes, but the dog is very cute. We can at least agree on that.
Him and his little ex-butthole, I love him.
Yeah, he's great. I forgot his name. Kempo? I don't know.
His name is Kadama, but everybody calls him Tama, which apparently is a cat's name.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, love that dog. That dog's the best. Yeah. Best character in the whole show.
Yes, his 0 lines were really riveting.
Hey, he did his part.
But yeah, that's fair.
Okay, the band. Let's talk about the band, because the thing that probably was the most unrealistic part of this entire show was the band choosing to actually let Winter sing. Now, I'm a grown-up, So is Mason. We both have jobs. When it comes to work, a lot of times you'll have deadlines. And when it gets close to a deadline, if it looks like something's not going to come through, you start to make preparations for that inevitability, right? They got to the day of the show. During rehearsals, Winter was not doing what he needed to do to be a part of the band. Yet and still, they took a chance on going in front of the crowd during the show and trusting that he would sing. And to me, that is completely unrealistic. If it was real life, I really feel like they would have been like, you know what, you're not ready. We're just going to do our instrumental songs and keep it moving. And I know that they had to do that for the sake of drama, but I remember Aki asking Winter, like, send your lyrics to me when they're done. Obviously, Winter never did that. So they had no idea whether or not he was going to have anything to sing when they got to the stage. During rehearsals that day, Winter's not playing the guitar. He's not singing. He's not doing anything. And then he looks completely petrified backstage. So I wonder, like, I get that it's for drama's sake. This is a show. It's for drama's sake. But I kind of wish that that didn't play out that way, because there's so much other stuff happening in this show that is very based in reality, that part felt out of place to me.
So I will say one thing you said was just factually wrong. You said that they trusted him to sing. They did not trust him to sing. They said, you know what? Just don't sing. We're just going to play the instrumental for the song for the first song.
Then why'd they put the microphone in front of him? Because nobody else had a microphone in front of them except for Winter. So obviously they had the microphone there. They didn't put it to the side. It was in a position for him to sing.
I think you're reading too much into the dramatic effect of this, honestly.
No, I'm saying that it was for dramatic effect, because in real life, it just would have been that way.
I'm just saying, like, they verbally said, like, hey, just don't sing, it's fine, you know. I don't know what to say to this, because I completely disagree. I think that was the best scene of the entire show. The entire show led up to that moment, and I think it paid off, and it was the best scene of the whole show.
I was glad to finally hear the song, because, like, after hearing him go la 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 so many times, I'm like, I really need lyrics here, because I want to laugh every time you go la la la. But yeah, it didn't connect for me, because it felt, everything timing wise felt off about the lead up to that song, especially like the guitar strings. I know for a fact it is not a quick process to change out guitar strings. And they got, 2 or 3 songs. Let's assume each song is 5 minutes, 15 minutes to run to the store, get guitar strings, come back, change out all the guitar strings, and then tune the guitar. Like, it was just doing too much. I felt like at least 1 or 2 other elements should have been maybe put to the side, instead of trying to make all of the dramatic tension be right for that moment. But that's just me. You know, sometimes people don't do enough to bring the drama, and sometimes people do a little bit too much. Why? So I probably could have done with 1 less element there. That way the focus would have been on something else besides that. But the fact that, like, he's never sung the song out loud. We don't know that he's got any lyrics, because we've never been told that he had any lyrics. And then all of a sudden, not only does he have the lyrics, but he gives a performance that apparently moves the entire crowd and most people consider to be perfect. And I'm just like, yeah, no, not for me. But what did read very well for me was right after he performed, and Summer took him off the stage and was like, you did great, gave him a kiss, and then went back out there, and the rest of the band performed their instrumental songs. That part I was into. But the stage performance, no, wasn't for me.
I'm thinking of how to respond to this. I don't know. I just don't think that, like, I think you're too focused on as much as you keep saying like, oh, I get it, they're doing it for the drama, you're still really hyper focused on it not being realistic enough for you. And I don't even know how to counteract that. Like, that's just not how storytelling works. Like, I think at the end of the day, it's like, what is the emotion behind it? What is the emotion they were trying to get across? And I think they are so overly successful in that, that like, it makes that scene so good. But I also really love that scene, which I guess I'll get into a little bit later.
Okay, well, let's take it point for point here for me. There were like four or five different dramatic situations that went on in this span of about 20 minutes, because I think each episode is about 20 minutes. And it was too much narrative-wise as well. You have the dramatic tension of, will he get the guitar strings in time? Because he's got to run and go get the guitar strings, come back to the venue, change the guitar strings out. The fact that he even broke the guitar strings is like, oh wow, we're already kind of nervous anyway, and now you've added this tension of a broken piece of equipment. Then there is, you know, the fact that all the people that everyone in the band cares about is in the audience, and this is going to be the first time he's performing in front of an audience, first time he's performing, period, really. And you have, is the song going to be finished? We've been waiting all this time to see if there's ever going to be any lyrics. Is he going to get this song finished? Like, and then there's also this added component of Summer being like, I have to confront my feelings for him in this moment right now. And it's just, it was too much, and it made it to where nothing was put into singular focus for me for that episode. And so like, it was the tension of, is he going to get back to the venue on time with these guitar strings? Is he going to actually perform when they get on the stage? Is he going to sing? With the audience, like, what are his friends going to think? What is violin villain guy going to think? Like, there's just so much stuff going on. And up until that point, none of the episodes had, to me, as many different things going on in them. Or at least the focus seemed a lot more narrow. And this one, it was just everything happening at once. And it just made it not seem as, like you were saying, that you felt like the relationship felt like it was a very natural buildup. Mm-hmm. The drama in this particular episode did not feel as natural as everything else that had happened preceding this episode to me.
It definitely took a big spike up, but I think, like, yeah, there's a lot of tension this episode, but I think it's different types of tension, so I think it kind of gets away with it. Like, the whole running to get the strings, that A, didn't take very long, B, that's just, what type of conflict would that be? Man versus environment, I guess. But like, most of this episode was man versus self. And I think that because the episode is so focused on like the personal feelings, and I think the emotional feelings of Summer really drove the episode. And then once you get to the performance, it switches to Winter, and you really finally, for the first time, understand Winter's character in that scene. I just think that the emotional flip was really beautiful. Mm-hmm. I get your point. I just disagree.
And that's fine. We don't have to agree. Now you can share our best friends forever moment and tell us why episode 9 is important to you.
Okay. I love I really just love that song and that scene specifically. And I really, really like, I just really like the show as a whole. So the reason I really like episode 9 is because that scene where he's singing the song, I think the drama was built beautifully. Like, for me, it made sense. I was like, oh, this is juicy. And then they weren't expecting him to sing. And then when he sings, they're all shocked at how good it is. And that, like, I think it works because he had never opened up about the death of a loved one before. Like, it didn't seem like he'd ever really talked about it. And the reason he was so hesitant to share the lyrics and to, like, he was just insecure, because it's like pouring your heart out, like, in front of a bunch of people, in form of art is so, it's terrifying. Like, it's really, really terrifying. Like, I've made comics, I've made drawings that had a personal, like, here's something I went through, and if it ever isn't received the way you think it needs to be received for you and your healing, it's really unfun, and it's really hurtful. And I totally get it, like, as an artist, like, why he is like, wow, I really like low-key poured all my trauma into this one song. This is my first performance. Like he's got a lot on his plate right now. He just does. So I'm like, I get you, Winter. I see you, I feel you, and I am crying with you because like it's so hard to really put your heart on a sleeve when you're making art. Because if it doesn't come across the way you mean for it to, if it doesn't come across the way you want it to, if it's not interpreted in a way that you hope it will be, you know, you don't have control over that. I don't have control over how people view and think about my art, you know? Neither does J.K. Rowling, as much as she tries to be like, you know, tries to add all of this bullshit, you know, I'm just gonna ignore it because I don't buy it. Death of the author, you know? So it's like, he's really just gonna pour his heart out on his sleeve. And instead of saying it just like in a conversation, he is gonna tell that to a room full of people and to someone that he clearly loves right next to him, you know? So when that scene comes and he finally starts singing, and the song, I'll be honest, the song's a fucking banger. That song fucking slaps. It's so good. The lyrics are beautiful. I think it's so well written. It's about like when everything is lost that day, and it's called Fuyu no Hanashi, which means a winter's night, because Mafuyu, his name contains the word Fuyu, winter, and then Yuki, his partner who the song is about, his name means snow in Japanese. So both their names are correlated with winter. And his whole point of the song is, on a winter's night, he lost his love. And then at the end of the song, he's talking with his Yellow Tips, and he tells Yellow Tips, you know, I think I found someone new that I like. And he says, and then the voiceover is, it goes from on a winter's night, I lost love in my life, to, or on a winter's day, I lost love in my life, to on a summer's night, I found love again. And he's no longer lonely. He feels like he has people in his life that care about him and are accepting of him. And I just think it all came together so beautifully for me. The song was great. The message behind it was great. I love that they had the flashbacks showing their relationship. I actually really love, they showed how caring Yuki is in every situation in their life. I think one of the scenes that was really great in the flashback during the song was the scene where they actually showed them having sex. Not that they showed like anything juicy, but there's one part where Mafuyu is like kind of panting and Yuki like tickles his hand to like get his attention very gently and just smiles so endearingly at him. It's a smile that says, everything will be okay. You're in good hands. And they show in that that 3 minutes the song takes how much those two cared for each other, how much Yuki really and truly cared for Mafuyu, loved him, and was good for him, and why it just is so sad that he is a life that was lost. I thought it was super beautiful. It was one of those moments where it's like, that's it. That's why I do animation. It's scenes like that bring a tear to my eye. It makes me cry thinking about it. I think it's really beautiful. It reminds me of, this is why I took out heavy loans to go to art school. This is why, I cried and I worked so hard and I passed out in the hallways, working hard to get to where I am today, working for a large company, and achieving my dreams, because it seems like this is the story that I want to say. This is what hits me. And like, it's so meaningful to me. I think the stuff with the suicide also really hits me, because not only have I struggled with that, but when I was a junior in high school, my sister's best friend passed away. And I don't know, just like to see how that affected my sister and her friends. I think that something about this show hit that emotionally. Sorry, I really hate crying in front of people. I always got yelled for it as a kid.
Now I feel like an asshole because I can't even hug you.
So I just feel like this show did such a good job of explaining the grief pattern, explaining that like it's not something you can ever really get over, but how you can move on from it. And I think that one fucking scene, that one song does that. And I'm like, man, they really jammed all of that into a 3-minute scene. I just think that's amazing. And every time I think about it, like, it makes me cry just because, you know, it's sad to think about. I mean, I didn't know my sister's friend as much as she did, but it was still a hit to our family. And every May, he passed away right before graduation. Like, they just had prom. And so every May is a really bad month for my family. That's just one of the reasons, because, you know, bad month. I just really like the characters. I thought I connected with, I found parts of myself in all of them. Even like Haruki, I think I found myself in him in the way that he like is always, he's very analytical, but always doubts himself. And I feel like that's me. Like, I feel like I'm very analytical a lot of the time in a lot of social situations and a lot of like artistic decisions, things like that. But I'm always a victim of my inner saboteur, as RuPaul will say. You know, I just think that there's bits of me in every character. So this series really hits home, and it's hard for me to talk about it in a very objective way when it is so personally, when it affects me so personally. So like, it's hard for me to sit back and be like, here's why, you know, it's just like, how do you talk about something that affects you so emotionally, you know? Like, I think, and I don't know, like the thing with like the music too, it's like, sorry I'm rambling, but the thing with the music too, it's like, oh, I don't even speak Japanese, but this song like hits my spirit because of the melody, the way it's being sung. The actual singer of the song was the actual voice actor for Mafuyu. I think it's great. He sang it with so much passion and soul, with like, just the way it was sung, it fits if you read the lyrics, fits the lyrics perfectly. And I just think it shows the power of music and how music doesn't have to be in your language for you to like it. If you're new to this channel, I started this channel because, as you can probably tell by the title, I'm a big K-pop fan. I have K-pop posters behind me. These are, you know, anime figures and K-pop albums. You know, I don't speak any Korean. Same as a fucking Red Velvet fan right now.
Sorry.
Any Korean. And people always, you know, ask, like, how can you like music if, you know, you don't know the words? And it's like, what does it matter? You know, if something hits you emotionally, I just think that's the power of art. That's the power of music. And that scene captures like everything I like in life, and it puts it in a 3-minute scene. You know, it doesn't have to be an emotional thing either when it comes to music, you know. Sure, that song makes me feel something emotionally, but, you know, sometimes I want to listen to Hyuna and shake my ass. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Sometimes I want to mome and have a good time. So that's my spiel on why episode 9 is, in my opinion, very good. Anyway, sorry for crying. Very embarrassed.
Why are you apologizing? The only thing I'm sorry about is I can't hug you. Not that you would accept touch, but I'm just saying, like, I feel, I was doing this while you were talking because, like, this is about as close as I can get to, like, letting you know I'm sorry. Mm-hmm. You know, your emotions are real, and I apologize if the way I see the episode isn't sensitive to your emotional state when watching the episode. I guess I just don't have the same kind of background of feeling for it. Also,
you don't have to like it. It's fine. But like, yeah, that's my piece with the episode. Like, I'm not mad, or like, I'm not like offended that you didn't connect with it in the way I did, because again, it's art, and the way you view it is valid, and it hits you differently, and that's totally okay.
Well, I was just thinking to myself, like, I almost wish that the episode had been cut differently, and a piece of episode 5 maybe had been put into episode 6, or not episode 5, episode 8 had been put into episode 9 instead, because I think what would have kind of got me to the same emotional place for you is if, instead of concentrating on all the chaos of trying to get a live show going, if they had focused on like the day of the show, starting with Winter's point of view and working from there. I don't think I needed anybody else's conflicts or anybody else's chaos or anybody else's emotions to be in here. I think I would have preferred to stick with him the whole way, because for me, it was hard to make the leap from being caught up in Summer's emotions to then turning around and once the performance begins, being caught up in Winter's emotions. And so I would have preferred maybe a one-person focus for the episode. That way I could get into that space easier. Because episode 8 was pretty much all about Winter. And it gave you more information as to what this relationship was, you know, how they began, all that kind of stuff. Episode 8 really brought it home. And I think staying there, especially because I was watching it in one go. If I was watching it in real time where I had a week's space, then maybe it would have felt a bit differently. Mm-hmm. But because I'm watching from one episode to the other immediately afterwards, it's like, okay, I was in this headspace with Winter, and now I'm having to get to everybody else's headspaces. And then I have to get right back to Winter because of the song. And for me as a viewer, in the way that I viewed the show, that interruption pulled me out. Mm. So that, to me, is where I lost a lot of that. But I also feel like there's a lot that could have been said that you said could have been said in the story prior to, well, actually all the way from episode 1. You don't get the feeling that Winter knows the art of music, if that makes any sense. Like, it's almost like he'd never listened to music before. It's very bizarre. And so, like, that feeling of I'm bearing myself to the world for them to critique, I guess I didn't feel that from Winter, because it didn't even seem like he acknowledged what this was in a lot of ways. Like, it didn't come across as me revealing my art to people. It came across more as me actually speaking, because I don't speak. And that's how I thought both. From the lead up.
I think it's both, you know.
Because I didn't really get the idea that Winter understood music as art. In fact, it wasn't until after the performance that he acknowledged that I like music. You know? Just like after the performance, he acknowledged he is in love with Summer. It's like a light switch turned on only after the performance. It didn't seem like any of that was there in the lead up to the performance. But again, Winter's character is a character that's not very revelatory. We don't know much about him, even though we've gotten to the point where he's getting on stage and he's about to sing, and we've seen these flashbacks and everything else. I still left the series feeling like I don't know Winter. So yeah, like that, I'm revealing myself and I'm revealing my art for you to give feedback. It didn't even seem to me like it registered to him that he was going to get feedback. And it's never discussed after that either. Like, he never talks about, like, he talks about what he felt like being on the stage and how the stage was hot and the adrenaline and those things. But he doesn't ever talk about, like, the crowd's reaction to the art that he's giving them. So right. I can see it from your point of view, but I don't know if necessarily Winter had that same path. But again, he's new to music, so maybe those things are happening and he just doesn't have the words or the frame to contextualize it.
Yeah. I do think there's a shortcoming in the shows to where they knew they were doing a movie and they knew they were doing the show, and they didn't kind of plan accordingly in a lot of ways. They could have condensed it a little bit more and expanded on some other areas, and not stayed as close as they felt they needed to the source material. Because I think a story like this reads better when each episode's a chapter and you read it faster, you know? Like, the amount of time it takes to watch an episode of Given is the amount of time it takes me to read the whole volume, you know? So I can get all of the first 6 episodes just by reading this, you know? So I think that's just like, the manga doesn't really lend itself to being adapted exactly as it's planned, and they went with a like almost word for word, shot for shot adaptation, which I do think was a bit of a mistake.
I understand why they did it though, because manga fans are some of the most vocal fandoms in the world when it comes to interpreting the source material.
Mm-hmm.
They get irate when you change things, and what they love is to see the page on the screen, or at least from what I've seen online conversations. And so I feel like it's damned if you do, damned if you don't. You know, it's tough taking it from the manga to the anime, but at least they're both a drawing medium. They're both a medium that requires, you know, the page in a way.
Because it's definitely easier to adapt a manga to an anime than it is for like a novel to a film.
Yeah, like a novel to a film, or like even a manga to a film. Like, how many people have been so upset whenever like Death Note or Attack on Titan or any of these other mangas that get turned into live action? People hate it. I don't know why they keep doing it, because it never gets received well, ever. So with that being said, I think that, yeah, the people who produced this anime were trying their hardest to please the audience for the manga.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in that way they did the best they could. But the scene where Winter walks to the ocean, like he's walking through town, gets on the train, walks to the ocean, before we find out what the ocean meant to him. I remember watching that episode and thinking I would really appreciate some kind of clue or textualization as to what this walk means. And you don't get it until later.
Yeah, that was an added thing for the anime, and it was one of those things where it's like, I could see what they were trying to do, but they put it too early in the series, you know? Had they put it after, it would have made more sense. But they didn't need that scene because you know why the ocean is so important to Mafu by the time he goes there with Uenoyama, when it really matters, you know? So I think that scene just should have been cut. Again, like they're just like things that they could have just cut for time or consolidated for time that they didn't, and therefore they kind of stretched out the series a bit.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think it was good. I mean, it was my first time watching a yaoi that was not super graphic, because I mean, I think we've all watched some of the nastier yaoi that's available on YouTube. I know I have, because I'm a perv. But yeah, it was nice to have an emotional component when it comes to this kind of thing, and I really do. I actually liked it. Like I feel like you were worried that I didn't like. I actually did like it. I just there was that. I think I had a lot of expectation for episode 9 because you had so much affection for episode 9. I think that I watched it with an eye that was a bit more critical because I anticipated greatness for this. And also, I think that, again, I'm coming from a place where I'm used to shows. And when it comes to actors and things like that, there's things that, as great as anime is, it still doesn't read the same. A prime example is when you were talking about during the performance of the song during episode 9 and the lovemaking scene that was flashed back in that episode, you were saying that Yuki gave this reassuring smile, and I'm like, it didn't read like that to me, because animated faces don't have the subtleties that human faces have. It's impossible to do so because of the face muscles that we have, because of the way our skin moves. There's just a lot of things that are very hard to put on the page that happens in human motion and human movement. And so I can't even, just like you'd watch a boys' love and be like, that actor's cute, that actor's not cute. I would never say that any of these characters are attractive, because to me, that's not how I see them. They're drawings in a lot of ways. And so, like, the way that their noses are, I remember thinking their noses were kind of weird because it'd be like a straight line and a triangle on the side. And I'm like, I don't understand that. But yeah, like the emotions that read across faces, human faces, is abbreviated in anime because there's no way to give all of it to the page. And so I almost wish that this had been live action. I feel like if this was live action, it would be really, really interesting to watch for somebody who maybe doesn't have the critical eye for art styles and that kind of thing. If it was just for story purposes, I would really like to see this live action. But I think that things like the way light is drawn, the way that different moments are drawn, especially like the spotlights and the stage and stuff like that, you would lose a lot of that bringing it to live action. But I think seeing people's faces would add a bit more if it was live action.
I see what you mean. I disagree with I guess I can't tell you how to interpret it, but I definitely think that the drawing of him looking down on Mafiu was very, it was a really good example of how to draw subtlety have subtlety in a drawing. And I think one of the reasons I like this so much is because that it was animated, and it, like, I don't know, like, I hate when people ask me in class, or like teachers would be like, why do you want to tell this story as animated? Like, how are you taking advantage of the medium? And it's like, I get that statement, but also I think it's kind of bullshit. Why can't we have these subtle stories told in animation? I think that it can work, but I also think this production had a very low budget and little time. So how can you do the beautiful subtleties of animation when you don't have a big budget and you don't have the time to do so? But I commend them for trying, but they clearly had a very small budget. The animation is not great. It really just, it's not great. They don't move well. It's very static. There's no squash and stretch. But I also, it's difficult because these characters have fairly realistic proportions. They don't have any like fun shapes really going around. Like, American animation really prides itself on shape design and how, like, oh, this character is basically a circle on top of a triangle kind of a thing. Whereas anime tends to have a bit more realistic proportions, and this one in particular had very realistic proportions, maybe not so much in the face. But even the face still had, like, proportionally, it was fairly even and it was fairly natural. Even if, like, the nose was characterized a bit. So that alone makes it harder to draw when you have, like, very realistic proportions and hands and wrinkles in the clothing. That shit's really hard to draw. So if you don't have a lot of time to do it, sometimes things are going to look kind of crunchy. There's also, like, in animation, you need squash and stretch to make things read better. Basically, like, if a character's, like, talking and they're opening their mouth, like, you want to, like, make sure the cheeks are moving and you're pushing the forms on the face and the body. Like, if someone's falling, you know, they squash the ground a bit more because it's not live action, so things need to be exaggerated a little bit more for it to read better. So, like, if you watch Looney Tunes, that is, like, the fucking textbook of squash and stretch. They're like gazoinks and they're, like, all stretched out or crunched up, and something like this they should have used it more, but I can see why they'd be hesitant to, because they're trying to tell such a realistic story. And if you go too far with it, it becomes cartoony and it becomes, it might muddle the overall realism that they were kind of going for in a lot of scenes. But I do think they should have pushed the squash and stretch of the characters. They didn't really play with arcs either. Like, if you're, like, everything in animation, it deals with arcs. Everything moves in an arc. If you're walking, your head's doing this, you know? So what's the arc of the arm? But they're very much like, hello, how are you? You know, it's very stiff, very rigid movements. It's not like...
Except the coffee shop. I remember thinking, I want to go there and drink that coffee. I've never had siphon coffee before. That shit looks mad interesting.
But yeah, the character movements were pretty stilted. Not a lot of squash and stretch. Not a lot of like. It just didn't have any of like the fun stuff that you look for, especially in anime. Anime can do some crazy cool stuff. The way that they time their animation is different than America, and it leads to just some very interesting stuff. It's hard to explain without like a full demo. I apologize, but like animation, there's like there's some animation principles like timing, like how fast is the hand moving? Is it slowing into an action or slowing out of it, you know? So are you going like this? Or are you going like this? What's the action? Timing, spacing, these are all just like basic animation principles, and I don't think they take advantage of the medium in any way, which is okay. But like, because they didn't do that, they would have to really work hard on building the subtleties and the subtle expressions and make sure the drawings at least look good. And they kind of didn't. Like, I think an example of a movie that does a good job with subtleties is Pocahontas. The character Pocahontas has a lot of really subtle moments where she's just breathing and like blinking or like looking, and it's honestly too much. It's like, okay, Disney, we get it. You really wanted an Oscar. You didn't get it. Subtleties can work in animation.
But like Coco!
Like
I know you don't like Coco, but the scene where he's saying "Remember Me" to his grandmother, the subtleties of watching her face change as she started to recognize what was going on, that's beautiful.
That's it. That's what they should have done. But at the same time, Coco was a big budget American production. This was a very, very small budget anime, you know?
Yeah, was it animated in Vietnam? Because I was in the credits when I was watching my favorite character, I noticed a lot of Vietnamese names in the credits.
I think most anime is made in-house. They might have shipped some of it off if they were tight on a deadline. But I could be. Most anime is usually made in-house. America's the one that ships off most of our TV animation, at least, is usually shipped off. Our film animation is usually done in-house. But yeah, animation-wise, this wasn't good. They didn't do a good job of animating.
You know what I noticed, and I don't draw by any stretch of the imagination, so I don't have any technical terms for it. There were a couple of times on the scenes where they were sitting on the stairs, I was looking at the jawline for Winter, and the line looked kind of like, not uneven. It looked like a pen. Like, it looked like it had like little blots in it, like the straight line had little blots in it. Mm-hmm. And it reminded me of the manga that you sent me to read about the guy who was making manhwas. You said, that drawing style felt very similar in those moments. Not all the time, but just like that kind of, it looks like a pen thing.
Yeah, that's a mistake because they were going for a very even line quality in the outline. So they weren't doing a lot of thick to thin, which is what you were noticing.
Okay.
Yeah. Like where forms connect, usually you go thicker, or if it's like the if the light source is coming from here, this side of the face will be darker, and then it'll be like a lighter line here, or like a less thick line here to imply shadow.
Yeah.
Those are just like animation tricks. So they just goofed. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But yes, this was a weird episode.
You better post it. I know what you're gonna do. We're gonna get off live and you're like, oh, I accidentally lost the file. It couldn't be uploaded.
That's not what I'm gonna do. I will cringe forever that I cried on camera, though. So, oh well. What can you do?
I still recommend people watch Given because of kind of Mason's feelings about the series. I'm not going to give it a rating because I don't feel comfortable giving it a rating knowing how much it means to you.
Nope, you got to give it a rating. But I also think my rating will surprise you. My rating's not a 10,
Okay, well, if I'm honest and I'm judging it by everything and not taking your feelings into consideration, then I would give it a 7.5. That would be my rating. And that would be.
That's my rating.
Oh, okay, well, there you go. Like, that would be my rating. I think story-wise, there's a really good story there. And like I said, the messiness of grief and how, you know, everybody does it differently. Everybody goes through different things. The challenges of being emotionally honest with people, I think that that this series does that very well. But again, like I said, I just felt like episode 9, they just shoved a little bit too much into one episode. And then also, it felt unfinished. And I get it. They're trying to make a movie, so there's still more story to be told. But at the end of episode 11, which is a shitty number to end a series on, at the end of episode 11, I remember thinking, okay, but wait. Like, I had,
yeah, they do it. That is true. They definitely flubbed the ending.
Yeah, because, like, we're like, okay, well, the band are we getting more shows? Do they have a social media presence? Are they getting followers? They're going to have summer break. Are they going to go on vacation? Like, all the things that don't matter to anybody else matter to me. I wanted to see, where is this band going? I also wanted to see if, like, a car was going to come and hit the violinist so that he could die finally. And that didn't happen. Because I hate that guy. I hate him so much. He's the fucking worst. Like, it doesn't matter what the series is. I will always and forever hate any character that is emotionally manipulative. Even if they mean it for the good, I don't like it, because I really feel like one of the hallmarks of a true love is a love that everyone has the buy-in. Everyone is in on it, and no one has the advantage. And that is the reason why I said I wanted Pete and Cal to break up in Dark Blue Kiss, because I felt like Pete had the advantage in everything. Right. And in this series, the violinist, I feel like he has the emotional, financial advantage in everything, and I don't like it, because he knows he's got the advantage and he uses the advantage.
You're just gonna have to watch the movie to see how this gets resolved.
Is it a Mack truck?
No.
Then I don't want it, because I demand it.
Sam's like, bring out the guillotine.
You felt that same way for Non. I feel like you understand my emotions.
I understand. I'm not saying you're wrong. I just think it's funny. All right. So I also give it a 7.5. I don't really have a manga of the week. I guess I will say pick up Given if you can. The first 2 volumes are out in America. The 3rd volume comes out in August. The 4th volume comes out in November. And the 5th volume comes out in February. Also, if you can, grab the art book, because this shit is so well drawn. I was going to do fan art for this episode, and then I didn't, because I was looking through the art book again, and I remembered the best drawing of the 2 of Mafiyu and Uenoyama is in this book, and I can't top it, and it's the exact type of vibe that I would want to draw.
Is it going to be the thumbnail?
No, it's this right here. This is so cute. Come on. That's so good.
It is cute, but it's not going to be the thumbnail? Damn. Okay.
No, I'm going to use something from the anime as the thumbnail.
Okay.
No, I wouldn't have even used my fan art as the thumbnail anyways, because, ugh. Again, Inner Saboteur, I'm not doing it.
I'm telling you, it's the only thing that makes being friends with Mason hard, is like, it's so weird to have a friend who's that immensely talented, and then they're just like, I'm shit. And it's like, but you literally get paid to do this. You can't be that shit. But yeah, I digress. All right, well, since you've given your manga of the week, I have to give my Instagram of the week. I actually had to write a list of who I've already chosen for Instagram of the week, because I want to keep picking the same people over and over again. But I realized that doesn't help. That's not what we need to be doing. So I picked a person who I thought I had already chosen, but it turns out I did not. And I'm like, great, because this makes me super happy. All right, so in boys love news, my favorite ship in the entire world is getting a new series, and that ship is Max Tull. Max Tull is a ship that was established with the series together with me, and Max Tull is a special ship because where a lot of boys love people will let you down with their actions off camera, Maxwell has been a shining example of two individuals who not only respect the medium, but they respect the audience who supports the medium. And they have been very vocal about their support for LGBTQIA plus communities. They have always been very respectful when it comes to the way that they address their series and their popularity from the series. Tull is like a dream man. Like, he's literally going to be going to Columbia University next year. And it's just like, my baby's smart. He speaks full English and he's hot, you know? But what I like the most about Max Tull, besides the fact that they are so very supportive of queer audiences for these shows, is the fact that they're also really good actors. And in a show that has a lot to critique, because trust me, Together With Me is a problematic show, like most boys' loves are, their chemistry and their interactions with each other keep you going in a show that really doesn't deserve an audience in a lot of ways. And there's one couple in particular in Together With Me that if they were the leads, I would have clocked out a long time ago. But yeah, Max Tull, there's something about the two of them that it just draws you in and it makes you want to be a fly on the wall and be a part of whatever that magic is that they have going on. And it's a magic that gets displayed in so many different avenues. It's not just when they're doing their acting jobs together. It's also when they're doing variety. It's also when they're on Instagram with each other. It's when they're photographed together. Like, there's just so much to love about Max Tull visually and, you know, action-wise. But Max Tull has had 3 series together. They had Bad Romance, Together With Me, and Together With Me Again, or Together With Me 2, whatever. So a lot of people felt like the ship was over. We weren't going to get any more because they've already done 3 shows together. What more can you give them? You could give them Manor of Death. They have been given Manor of Death. Manor of Death is real. They're doing a whole series together. And it's a grown-up series, so I don't even know if technically it can be considered boys' love. But the series is about a medical, like a criminologist, you know, and also like a private eye investigator, whatever, as they go about solving a murder and a series of disappearances and other things. And it's not an engineering student. It doesn't take place at a high school or a college. It is like real grown people out there in the world. And it's these two. And I'm ultra excited. I couldn't be more happy about this development. And it is one of the real bright spots in what has been a really bad month for being a fan of boys love and other people. So I'm very, very happy about this. So my Instagram of the week was going to be Tull, but I decided that my Instagram of the week was going to be Maxin. So it's MAXIIIN_. Trust me, when you start typing in Maxin, if you follow any of these Thai boys love people, it's gonna autofill because like he's highly recommended. He doesn't have 1 million followers on Instagram, which is bullshit. He only has 631,000. That's crazy. But I like his Instagram. A lot of his Instagram right now is promotion for the show, but he does a lot of fun stuff on Instagram. He does TikToks and other little things, and I find his Instagram to be fun. There's a lot of boys love people that their Instagram is like nothing but advertisements. His tends to be very variety, so that makes it fun to follow. Also, he's just like super good looking, really good looking. And he doesn't mind being half naked a lot, so that helps too. So I recommend Max on Instagram because he's great. And Max Tull is a shining example of what I wish that more people entering the boys love arena would be. There is a slate of new boys love shows that are going to be coming soon. I know we've been doing a lot of older shows and things that aired quite a while ago, and you guys are probably ready for the new content. First of all, She Who Shall Not Be Named has really ruined filming for a lot of things. A lot of people are waiting until the Kiss ban has been removed. So one show that we're not going to be reviewing because I refuse to watch it to review it again is End of Love, This Is Love Story, which is the third and last segment of the End of Love series. It was filmed right after the new Rona filming restrictions were put in place. And because of it, people can't kiss. You're not allowed to film the kissing because the actors aren't allowed to be that close together, exchanging spit, stuff like that. So I believe that series ended with a neck nuzzle. But a lot of shows who have these really big cult followings, they know that their viewers are expecting a kiss. That is one of the hallmarks of BL, is that you give a kiss, whether it's at the beginning, the end, wherever you place it, there has to be at least one kiss. So a lot of the you not seeing us reviewing new stuff is not for lack of wanting to or because we're ignoring things. It's because everybody is waiting to see if that restriction will be lifted.
Mm-hmm.
And so because of that, we have a ton of stuff that should be coming either at the end of the year or the beginning of next year. We've got, I think it's called My Manor, My Gown, or My Manor, My Gear. I don't know what it is, but it's a series that's a doctor and an engineering student. And JJ, who's one of the twins, he's going to be one of the characters in that. Then we have Between Us, which is the Win Team story from Until We Meet Again. That is coming. Mm-hmm. We're very excited. Mm-hmm. Love to see it. We have Tharn Type 7 Years Later, which is coming. Mm-hmm. They're already in rehearsals for that. Mm-hmm. Want to see it, need to see it. We have Friend Zone 2, which has a really large LGBTQIA cast. Like half the cast is actually a part of the community, and they're in rehearsals right now too, so that's exciting. We have the Philippines. They're coming out with a ton of stuff. Right now I am watching Game Boys, but another show that's airing currently, which I tried to watch it, but it is filmed so poorly it's impossible. It's Sakristan. So that's showing right now. Gabriel, the actor who plays Gabriel in Game Boys, is doing a show called Omando soon. Mm-hmm. There's another show that's airing from the Philippines called Hello Stranger. I just watched the first episode of that. It's okay. It's got promise. But yeah, there's so much stuff on the horizon. And that's not even including Life, Love on the Line that's currently airing on Viki. That's not including Capture Lover, which just started this week and will be on Viki, I believe, next week. Mm-hmm. There's just all kinds of stuff out there. So because so many things have been put on hiatus because of the Ronas, we're taking this time to talk about some baseline series, because understanding those really helps you review things moving forward to see if people have learned from the mistakes of series past. Mm-hmm. Like when you're watching Love by Chance 2, which I still am on the fence about whether or not I'm even going to watch it for the sake of what we're doing. The mistakes of Love by Chance and MAME in general, they have to be considered. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, we're taking this time to kind of dive back into the back catalog to prepare us for the onslaught of everything that's going to be coming at us moving forward. Mm-hmm. So next week.
Mm-hmm. Next week we're doing Love by Chance.
And we're doing it together. Mm-hmm. Because we're going to be physically together. Mm-hmm. So I'm really excited about that. I might make us pink milk.
I really want pink milk.
I actually have the ingredients to make pink milk.
I'll make it if you have the ingredients.
Yeah, I just need to run by the store and get another bottle of syrup. But we have an Asian market here that sells the syrup that goes in pink milk. But it's just literally like syrup, evaporated milk, and condensed milk. And then like put on the stove, pour it over ice cubes.
We should go to the Asian market and buy snacks and have a snack tasting.
Well, we have a box of snacks from England we have to taste too. So like we're going to be filming like 15 videos while we're together. It's so bizarre. But yeah, I look forward to doing Love by Chance. it is referenced so much. Love by Chance and Tharn Type both are referenced so much in everything we've been talking about for a really long time. So it is time to talk about that. So just to get you guys prepared, if you've been following us or if you watch us week after week, we're going to be doing Love by Chance first because it was the first in the MAME universe that got wide popularity. And then immediately after that, we're going to be doing Tharn Type because it was the latest in the MAME universe that got really big popularity. And I just want you to know, because disclosure is everything, transparency is important. Upon rewatch, my emotions about these shows will probably be very different than what they were when we first started watching them. But I think that is a characteristic and that is an effect of growth. I think for both of us, we've always been people that, I wouldn't say we've been super woke, but we've always been cognizant of, social issues and things like that. And, trying to have a good base of what's right and what's wrong. And I think a lot of Love by Chance in the initial watch through of it, we both were kind of like, this is just so exciting to see like positive portrayals of gay relationships. This is nice. But after watching so much of the media, after watching so many of the shows, there's no way to get around how awful some of the things that happen in Love by Chance and Tharn Type are. So I hope that you'll extend a little bit of grace for who we were when we first started watching those shows, who we are now, and if we choose to maybe not focus as much on the problematic aspects, please understand, we're not saying they're not there. We're not acknowledging that they're terrible. In fact, we'll probably be doing a lot of acknowledgement of that.
Yeah.
But we don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. And there's still some redeeming things that can be discussed and should still be important to people that are joining Boys Love for the first time.
Yes. I don't have anything to add. Sam explained stuff well, so.
I'm so worried because, like, I feel like if somebody has been watching us for a while, but they've never watched Love by Chance, which I don't know who that would be, but there could be somebody that is a part of that demographic. Watching that and listening to the way we've talked about things so far, they might be like, why the hell would you recommend this show? This show is terrible.
Right.
But again, for me, it was my first Boys Love series. That was, yeah, so that was like how I got into it. And it's very hard to deny your first.
Very true. Very true.
Much like Aki. He has a very hard time denying his first.
Very true. All right, guys. Well, this was fun. I think this has been a very, very good conversation.
Yeah.
This is a good conversation.
I feel like you have been so close to us today.
Don't compliment me.
I just feel like we all know you so much more and we all just love you so much. And I'm just so glad that you decided to have this best friend time with all of us today.
This means you have to cry next week. We have to even out the score.
Sir.
I'm kidding.
Imagine me crying for Love by Chance. What? And when Pete was saying that he had douched ahead of time.
When they kissed in the car, I was like, oh.
No. Catch me on something else, but I'm not crying for Love by Chance. No, not at all. Tears of rage, maybe? Tears of rage. I'm not crying for Love by Chance. All right, you guys. Bye.
Bye.